Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for being with us. This is a public hearing on fiscal year 2021 capital budget and fiscal year 2021 to 2026 capital improvements plan for county government, Montgomery County Public Schools, Montgomery College, the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, the Washington Suburban Transit Commission, the Revenue Authority, the Housing Opportunities Commission, and municipality and state projects. Projects in the 6-year program include facilities for parks, recreation, roads, schools, the community college, libraries, fire stations, mass transit, housing, police, corrections and rehabilitation, general government, and other public purposes. Capital projects are primarily funded with money from future issuance of bonds. Additions, deletions, or modifications to the CIP and capital budget may be made subsequent to the public hearings. Council action on the WSSC CIP is also an update to the Comprehensive Water Supply and Sewerage Systems Plan. For everyone scheduled to testify, please bring your copies of your written testimony to the clerk at this time, to my left and your right. Before beginning your presentation, please touch the red button at the base of the microphone. When you finish speaking, please cut your microphone off. When you begin your presentation, please state your name clearly for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak. A yellow light in front of you will come on when you have 30 seconds left in which to finish your presentation. Please end your statement when the red light comes on. If you have not finished your statement, the council will read your submitted written testimony and will consider it just as your oral testimony. The first panel that we have this evening is Mark Perchala from the City of Rockville, Michael Mezzi from the Council of the Village of Friendship Heights, David Edelstein, who's an individual, Tony Mora, Coalition for the Capital Crescent Trail, Joe Fritsch, an individual, and Taka Amano, American Socia Company. And Mark, you are the first speaker, please.
Good evening, President Katz and members of the County Council. I'm Mark Perchala. I'm a Rockville Council member. Thank you for the opportunity to share Rockville's perspective on the County Executive recommended CIP. We greatly appreciate the County Council's capital investment in recent years, including the Bayard Rustin Elementary School and other Rockville priority projects. While we thank the County Executive for approving over 94% of the Board of Education's requests, we ask that it be fully funded. Many clusters serving Rockville students are still plagued with aging and overcrowded facilities. The Mayor and Council ask for your strong support for the following Rockville priorities. First, we urge you to include a major capital project in the CIP to completely rebuild the Twin Brook Elementary School. This facility, built in 1952, urgently needs ADA, sprinkler, and safety upgrades. Students are learning on the floors and hallways, and the school urgently needs 2 portable classrooms. Twin Brook Elementary is a Title I school with a 70% farms rate and desperately needs a modernized facility that will help students to excel. Second, we urge you to expedite the Wooten High School major capital project scheduled for completion in September 2026. This facility has HVAC, roof leaks, and other structural problems. The project must address school safety concerns, including unseparated bus drop-off and pickup areas and staff and student parking areas that are insufficient, crowded, and unsafe. Third, since the Richard Montgomery High School seat deficit is projected to spiral to 587 in the 2025-26 school year, it is imperative that MCPS open the Crown Farm High School on schedule in September 2025. With 6 portables and scarce classroom and lab space, how will MCPS address these issues while the community waits 5 years for a new high school? In addition, the Rockville Mayor and Council strongly support the following Board of Education CIP requests. First, the Maryvale Elementary School RevX with the co-location of the Carl Sandburg Learning Center to open in September 2020 and fiscal year 21 planning and construction funds to build out the second floor shell in the 2023-2024 school year. Second, the planning work underway for the reopening of the Woodward High School, the future Bethesda Chevy Chase Walter Johnson Cluster Elementary School, and FY21 construction funding for the Gaithersburg Elementary School number 8 to open in September 2022. In closing, we thank the County Council for prioritizing education and the MCPS CIP. Please call on us to support your school construction funding advocacy in Annapolis. Thank you.
Thank you, and we will, Mark. Thank you. Michael Mezzi?
Good evening. My name is Michael Measy, but
Measy,
it's fine.
Believe me, it won't be the
old
only
country
name
is
I
Measy.
don't do well on tonight.
I'm chair of the Friendship Heights Village Council, and I'm testifying on behalf of my colleagues on the council as well as the village residents. Although Friendship Heights Village is very small, only 32 acres, the county has authorized an incredible amount of population density. According to Wikipedia, our population density per square mile is the highest of any incorporated place in the whole United States, even Manhattan. In recognition of this population density and the need for parkland to serve it, in 1995, the county used park funds to purchase an acre of land fronting on Willard Avenue. This land, undeveloped except for one single-family house, was supposed to be added to the existing Willard Avenue Park, which adjoins the newly purchased land. The village looked forward to this acre being converted to park use so as to provide an open green space in a very crowded area. The land is easily accessible to all village residents, including the 1/3 of our population that is over the age of 65. 25 years have now passed since the land was purchased, and it still has not been converted to park use. In fact, a fence encloses the entire acre, preventing the public from even entering that space. For several years, Friendship Heights Village and neighboring communities have been urging parks to fund the conversion of the acre to park use. 2 years ago, we were told that if the council approved the new Parks Refresher program, funds to pay for this project would be available through that program. The village and other communities urged approval of the program, but after it was approved, Parks advised that these monies would not be used for the Willard Avenue Park. This year, Parks indicated that as part of its CIP budget, there would be a sum of money for funding urban park elements, and that these funds could fund the Willard Avenue project. However, we were also advised that the Willard Avenue project was just one of many projects eligible for the limited urban parks element funds, and that only a few of these projects would be funded. For 25 years, this acre of land purchased by the county explicitly for park purposes has been surrounded by a fence and inaccessible to the public. We think that we have been more than patient. Because the land as well as the house on it is already owned by the county, putting it to the public use would require a minimal appropriation. We request that the council take the necessary steps to assure that CIP budget funds will be used at long last to convert this acre to the public use for which it was intended. Thank you.
Thank you. David Edelstein? David Edelstein? Tony Mara?
Good evening. My name is Tony Mara. I'm the chair of the Coalition for the Capital Crescent Trail. As you may know, we're a local community organization. We have about 2,000 supporters, and our mission is to work to preserve, protect, and improve the Capital Crescent Trail. Our most recent project was the planning and the construction of the Neil Potter Plaza, where the trail meets River Road. We were in a partnership with the Parks Department and the Parks Foundation, and we raised from the public about almost close to $500,000 for this lovely new spot on the trail. We have two concerns that we want to bring to your attention tonight. First is the CIP does not include any funding for a trail tunnel under Wisconsin Avenue. And the second is that the Parks Department budget request has been cut by approximately $20 million. Let me speak first about the tunnel. The coalition strongly supported the paving of the trail that parallels the new Purple Line going from Bethesda to Silver Spring. And we also urged that the project include a continuation of a underpass under Wisconsin Avenue for the users of the trail between Woodmont Avenue and Elm Street. As the planning for the Purple Line went along, the tunnel that the trail has been using for the past 30 years was acquisition for the Purple Line, and we were no longer going to be able to have access to that. But we were told by officials that, don't worry, you will have a tunnel underneath Wisconsin Avenue because we are concerned about the safety of traversing the area between Woodmont and Elm. So we think that the tunnel is absolutely necessary for the safety of the users. The trail is the most heavily used trail in the county. It's only going to increase with the new access from Silver Spring. The interim surface trail that has been proposed and it will be constructed is not going to avoid the problems of crossing Wisconsin Avenue. So we urge the council to look at the budget and include funding for the tunnel. The second thing we want to do is to point out a concern that we have about the funding for the Parks Department. The county has got an outstanding series of parks and trails and recreation facilities. The Parks Department does a fantastic job in keeping them up, but they need the resources to do so. And we're concerned that the budget that they have asked for has not been granted and it's been cut dramatically, and we urge you to look at that and see what you can do about returning some money to the Parks Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Mara?
That's me.
No, I'm sorry. Joe Fritsch?
Good evening. My name is Joe Fritsch. I live up in Olney. I work with many groups, the Mid-Atlantic Off-Road Enthusiasts, Montgomery County Bicycle Advocacy Group. I do a lot of volunteer work with Montgomery County Parks, building and maintaining natural surface trails. Tonight, I am asking for full funding for Montgomery County Parks, as parks are an essential part of the quality of life of citizens of Montgomery County. Full funding is needed for new park amenities as well as maintaining current facilities. Parks Trail crew staff have been working hard to improve the sustainability of the natural surface trails while improving the trail access. Both the countywide Park Trails Plan and the Bicycle Master Plan place a priority on improving trail access to and from where people live. Park staff are working with the county and the state transportation departments to improve safety along these trails and roads. Full funding for parks, the Capitol Crescent Trail, and the BIPA, the Bicycle and Pedestrian Priority Area projects are needed if we are to make Vision Zero a reality. Project Open Space is one of Parks' most important programs. Without funding, Parks will miss out on opportunities to purchase land for future trails and protect natural resources for future generations. Along the way, I've worked on many different projects, including the Trails Master Plan with Parks and the Bicycle Master Plan with the Planning Department. Again, both of these intertwine very nicely to provide more access throughout the county for all parts of the county, from Damascus to Poolsville down to Rockville, Silver Spring. Without proper funding, we cannot have these trail connections. And again, these are vital for Vision Zero. For these reasons, I ask for parks and other projects such as the Capitol Crescent Trail Tunnel and the BIPA projects to be fully funded. Thank you.
Thank you. Taka Amano?
Thank you. Council President Katz, council members, my name is Taka Amano. I have been a resident parent, small business owner, and entrepreneur here in Montgomery County for 19 years. Thank you for the opportunity tonight to testify and to thank you for the wide range of support that we have received from the county as we have established and are growing our shochu distillery business. In August of 2015, we registered Azabu Distilling Company LLC here in Silver Spring, and in 2016, we established a distillery inside the FITSE Biotech Incubator in Frederick, Maryland. Doing business as American Shochu Company, we became the first and only genuine shochu distillery in North America right here in Maryland. Shochu, which is pronounced like trade show, chubaka, is the other traditional Japanese spirit, the not sake. They've sold more shochu than sake in Japan the last 15 years. In Montgomery County, we are in the county liquor stores and in the central farm markets that are run by Deb Moser and Mitch Berliner. I was introduced to the Central Farm Markets by Heather Bruskin and Catherine Nardi at MoCo, Montgomery County Food Council. And being able to sample and sell products at the farmers markets has been a big, important boost to a lot of us in the spirits business here. And I thank that's in the Maryland spirits business, and I thank the council for your support for the laws that have allowed doing this, state laws. There's some glitches in the county rules that I brought to the attention of Vice President Tom Hooker's office, and I thank you for your attention to this matter. Montgomery County Alcoholic Beverage Services, ABS, and the county liquor stores have also been big supports, huge partners in the early stages of growing our business. A year ago, with the support of Councilmember Rice and Councilmember Hooker and County Executive Elrich, the then DLC gave us the opportunity as what they call a Maryland-made local brand to be sold through the county iStore system and the 25 county liquor stores. As I understand it, national brands are required to hit a certain level, threshold level of sales to be stocked in the stores, and this was a special exemption that was made to us. A year later, I was informed that over the last 365 days, our Umai Shochu brand has sold in the top 4% of SKUs in the Montgomery County ABS system, putting us in the same qualification as national brands that are stocked in the system. The first time for a Maryland-made brand. I've attached a copy of the email that the county has is sending out talking about this exciting news. And we couldn't have accomplished any of this without the support of the county ABS and the council, the executive, and the Central Farm Market. And so
Thank you very much. We'll read the rest of your testimony. Thank you. There are no questions of this panel. Thank you very much. This concludes this panel. The next panel is Sonya Sanika from Neillsville Middle School, Christopher Arndt, an individual, Braden Weiss, an individual, Bonnie Bell, Coalition for Seneca Creek Greenway Trail, Zoe Chaya, Montgomery County Regional Student Government Association, and Brianna Akuma, an individual. Sonya Sanika, please.
Dear Montgomery County Council members, my name is Sonya Sanika. I'm in 8th grade at Neillsville Middle School. I'm here today to ask you, our county leaders, to please fully fund the Board of Education's Capital Improvements Program budget, which includes a brand new Neillsville Middle School. My school is one of many around the county that are slowly deteriorating more and more each year. We were up for a renovation in 2015, and nothing happened. I've been fighting for improvements for the past 3 years and have seen very little change. I would like to tell you about my experience at Neillsville. A main concern among students is we don't feel safe at our own school. Our main office is really far away from the school's entrance. It's actually easier for strangers to get to a classroom than it is the main office. Another safety concern is our crowded hallways. This year, we switched to having one-way hallways to try and fix our hallway issues, but we're still jammed together like s'mores. Sometimes the hallways will come to a literal standstill. Our leaking skylight got fixed, but the solution took away most of the main source of natural light we have at Neillsville. We have poor lighting in the hallways and dark, narrow stairwells that are so thin, they've been one way for years. Some teachers in classrooms with no windows, which is most of the classrooms, have put up art or painted fake windows to feel like there is some connection to the outside world. Most of the classrooms that do have windows only have little slits that look like they're for shooting arrows out of. Our cafeteria is small and overcrowded. We have 4 lunch blocks for almost 1,000 students, with long wait times for food that sometimes barely give us enough time to eat lunch. The closest bathrooms to the 6th grade hallway and cafeteria has 1 stall for girls, 1 stall for boys, and 1 stall for staff. Some kids even avoid the bathrooms because they're really small, look old, and sometimes smell. Many of our classrooms are overcrowded. There are even classrooms without enough desks. I'm still sitting in a chair in one of my classes instead of a desk like most other students are. We used to have a weight room, but in order to create more classrooms, our main gym is divided for two classes to share because we lost it. We also don't have an elevator to accommodate students with crutches or wheelchairs. We have a very long, winding, dangerous ramp that isn't in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. There are many, many more issues in Neillsville that can't be covered in 3 minutes. I'm here today because I strongly believe that every student deserves a great facility to learn in. But it's very clear we don't have that at Neillsville when students not just from our school, but other schools call us the prison on the hill. What happens won't affect me, but I don't want future kids to have to put up with the same issues that I do. If this all happens at my school, I'm sure other schools around the county are facing the same thing. So I ask you to please fully fund the board's capital improvement budget. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker is Christopher Arndt. Christopher Arndt. Braden Weiss. Braden, if you'll touch the, there you go. Yeah.
Good evening, council members. My name is Braden Weiss, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I would like to address the topic of Montgomery County parks. I would specifically like to address the need for increased investment around ball fields and what impact that would have in the youth community. I have been very fortunate to grow up here in Montgomery County, where we have a wonderful parks department. We have hundreds of parks around the county, but with an increasing population of over the last 15 to 20 years, we have increased usage. We have seen youth sports programs explode in Montgomery County, with more older kids playing sports and continuing to play those sports into their college years. I started playing baseball when I was 4 years old, and there are a lot of fields that are smaller for little kids to play on, but there are more teams that need full-size 90-foot baseball fields to play on, such as mine. Last spring, my 13-year-old team, the Dimesville Dodgers, were looking for a field to have practice on and couldn't find one. There are not enough 90-foot baseball diamonds to meet the needs of all the kids playing baseball in Montgomery County. We were not the only team looking for a field. There were at least 3 other teams struggling to find practice space. Fortunately for our team and the other teams that currently use Nike Missile Field, the Parks Department worked with Dimesville Dodgers and Montgomery Little League to do a field swap to turn the field into a full-size 90-foot baseball field with a 60-foot 6-inch portable mound. 90-foot baseball diamonds are the most in demand and highly needed across Montgomery County. Without the field, we wouldn't have had a place to practice and wouldn't have been as successful as we were. In addition to my team practicing there, Avalon High School, the Mid-Atlantic Red Sox, and several other teams held practice and played games there throughout last spring and summer. A field that had little to no utilization is now being rented out 6 out of 7 days a week, all spring. The field took several men 2.5 weeks to convert into a full-size field, and this is the kind of renovations that could be done to improve the aging baseball fields that exist and have low utilization all over Montgomery County. The teams that need practice, the teams that play and practice there are high schoolers who are committed to play at competitive Division I schools, and they need a field that is one of the finest in the area to practice on. If we could get funding to build more baseball fields into 90-foot base paths and 60-foot 6-inch mounds, then more teams would be successful, and baseball in Montgomery County could be more competitive, which would eventually attract college coaches, which could give people an opportunity to go into good colleges and further their education and baseball careers. The recently funded athletic field program for Montgomery Parks is the only reason that the kind of field upgrade was possible. It is imperative that additional resources are allocated to expand the scope and reach of the work of the Parks Department to meet the demands of continued growth of youth sports in Montgomery County. Montgomery County Parks can lead the way with your continued support of this program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Bonnie Bell.
Good evening.
You're going to need to cut when you're, there you go.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Bonnie Bell. Thank you. I appreciate you all being here in the evening when people who work and go to school can come and testify. I have been a volunteer in Montgomery County Parks starting in the 90s with Bluebirds and in 2000 with Natural Surface Trails. I'm here to speak on behalf of maintaining a good budget for the Parks Department, particularly Natural Surface Trails, and I have some things to show and tell with you. I'm starting with a proclamation issued by the County Council of 2015 to the Seneca Amigos, who are instrumental in building the Seneca Creek Greenway Trail. 934 Montgomery County Parks Trail volunteers in 2015 dedicated 6,147 hours of service inspecting, maintaining, and constructing natural surface trails. That's a lot of people and a lot of hours, and that only represents the volunteers, not the trail users. Next, we have, this is actually mine. This was a countywide Parks and Advisory Board a recognition, Parks Volunteer for Excellence. I was leading, I'm now a trail crew leader, 33, at that time, 33 trail volunteer sessions. So that's the county. This is Trail of Fame, State of Maryland. Same thing, trails. And here we can go national. From the American Trails Organization. I was nominated for this and won this, and this is not about me. This is about why these were possible. These were possible because we have an exemplary trail system here, and those volunteers are what made these possible. There are economic, health, property value, pollution control, and detection benefits. Costs of natural surface trails are minimal compared to the bounce you get for them. If any of you have not been out on our trails, I would like to issue an invitation to come out and hike with me. I've hiked 49 miles in January. I picked up 25 and a half pounds of trash during that time. It's a great stroke of luck for me that I live in Montgomery County where we have a world-class park system. It's won numerous awards, and we have wonderful trails. So please, keep the department funded. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Zoe Chaya.
Good evening, President Katz and members of the County Council. My name is Zoe Chaya. Today I'm here representing the Montgomery County Regional Student Government Association. This time last year, I came before you and retold the story of Georgina the cockroach and her cockroach friends and family at Damascus High School. I stressed the dire needs of our crumbling schools and the severe and menacious conditions of our dilapidated facilities. You all funded our capital improvements plan, and I'm here to ask you all to do it again. Today, I wanted to focus on some of our other schools in the same group of secondary school major capital projects, but before I do, I wanted to emphasize a few points that you've probably already heard from our school officials. You all know that our county is growing, that our school system is growing with it at an unprecedented rate. Over 2,000 students have been added in this year alone, and our county's demographics are shifting too, with new and younger, larger families moving into the county to take full advantage of our phenomenal school system. But our school system can only truly be phenomenal if the programs and amenities that we boast ourselves on are hosted in buildings that are actually suitable for education. Buildings that do not threaten students with cancer from the asbestos-filled walls or with hurling pieces from the crumbling ceilings. Surely you have heard about the countless protests from Clarksburg parents about the Board of Education's plan to change the boundaries of Neilsville Middle, with one of the loudest criticisms being Neilsville is broken and it needs to be fixed. Now, I don't agree with these parents on a lot of matters, but on this one, I do agree. I won't repeat Sonia's phenomenal comments because she described it better than I ever could, but Neilsville is broken and it needs to be fixed. The hallway at Neilsville are narrow, the ceiling tiles often leak or have mold, and the main entrance is completely detached from the main office, such that visitors are sometimes unable to locate the area that is supposed to serve as the check-in point for all visitors. These pervasive issues echo in the halls of other schools slated for major capital improvements projects, Wooten and Magruder, Damascus, and Poolesville. Students at these schools, my friends, have long expressed their frustration with having to navigate the halls of a school that is quite literally falling apart before their very eyes. These schools have been neglected, dejected, and students pay with their health and their sanity every day. Sitting in classrooms for hours on end with no natural light to punctuate the unceasing tedium of the school day. That is the life of thousands of students in our falling apart schools. In the FY19 annual report by the Interagency Commission on School Construction, Montgomery County was listed as having only 64% of our schools in good or superior condition, making us 17th in the state for school conditions. We have a duty to ensure that the students in every school have a school that is sound, that is clean, that students can feel safe in. We have a duty to fully fund the board's request, which, as comprehensive as it is, still leaves behind schools that are long overdue for reconstruction or updates, schools like Eastern or Springbrook, because that's how prevalent of a problem the deterioration of infrastructure is in our school system. Council members, picture yourself walking in the halls of Neillsville. Picture yourself in a crowded hallway. Would you feel excited
Thank
to
you
learn?
very much. We'll read the rest of your testimony. Next is Brianna, and I'm not going to get your last name right, so please pronounce your last name for us as well.
My name is Brianna Akuma Boateng. I am the co-president of Neillsville's SGA. Since Sonya and I last spoke with the board, we have received extreme support from our community, and they are truly understanding how badly we need a new school. We are extremely appreciative that we are even being considered for this makeover of renovations, but we are desperately asking you to have this funding reserved for us. Student and staff safety is constantly at risk when it comes to entering our building. As you know, the hallway, all you have to do to enter our building is press a button for the office to open the doors. But even then, they can hardly see who is coming in, and that poses as a major security threat. School shootings are becoming a prevalent occurrence, with 25 happening last year alone, and our lack of safety leaves us at a constant risk and easy targets. We can't possibly stay defenseless anymore. Outside security aside, our doors may be easy to enter, but getting out is a much more complicated situation. And our doors are fire hazards because in a time of emergency, we cannot all be filed out in a safe matter of time. Furthermore, our 5 boys, girls, and staff respective bathrooms are not nearly enough to accommodate for the near 1,000 of us at Neillsville. And also, the infrastructure of our school is so somber that we have been mistaken for a juvenile detention center, and it does not help that we bear resemblance to the 7 Locks Penitentiary just off the 270. This year, we instilled a rule for our upper floor to be used as a one-way hallway, because in years prior, there was one intersection that got so filled up that it caused countless stalemates and was a perfect place to be trampled and hurt. The one-way hallway doesn't completely get rid of this problem either, because when your classroom is barely across the hall, but you have to go all the way around to reach it, people are definitely running the moment that bell rings, leaving everybody in their wake an obstacle that will be hurt in the process. And lastly, I want you to imagine having hundreds of students walk a single hallway packed like a can of sardines, being herded like cattle. This kind of cramped and stuffy atmosphere does not make for a good learning environment. And Neillsville is currently a safety hazard to all of its inhabitants, and will continue to be one until you help us fix it. So please, take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Reamer, please.
Thank you, Council President. I think you would probably agree that when we get compelling testimony from a young lady, we ought to acknowledge it. So, Bonnie, you did a great job. Thank you. Yes. Sorry. Attempted deus humor. Thank you to all of you who provided testimony. Really vivid portraiture of Neillsville and the need there. And Brady did a terrific job talking about the need for parks investment and athletic fields. So, thank you. Really appreciate everyone's participation tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Rice.
Thank you very much, Council President. And I just wanted to highlight for Sonya and for Brianna and for Zoe, the point that you made about the decision of the Board of Education in actually redistricting and moving some of those boundaries is actually highlighted the effort for us when it comes to Neillsville Middle School. Neillsville Middle School was always a priority, and so I'm happy to see that the board has certainly done that, but did want to let you know that I've already asked our staff to look at ways in which we may be able to accelerate Neillsville Middle School, understanding that there are other things that are tied to it beyond just the situation itself, being that it's dilapidated. We do have some serious ADA concerns that are in that building as well, and so from that perspective, it's one where we're looking at the possibility of being able to do that. Do understand that we are looking at a CIP that came from the county executive that is not where it needs to be in terms of supporting the Board of Education's request. So we certainly are going to ask the board to take a look at the list, but one of the ones that we know needs to remain based on the Board of Education's decision that makes it a little bit different from some of the others is that it is directly tied to population. And if we're going to be moving folks around, we do need to make sure that we actually have the facility in place that's able to accommodate. And so from that perspective, it puts itself in a little bit of a different situation. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that and know that we're currently working with the Board of Education as well as our staff to try and make that happen. So thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you. There's no other questions for the panel. Thank you very much for being with us. The next panel is Jane Lerman from MCC PTA, Melissa McKenna, an individual, David Scull, an individual, Allison Gillespie, an individual, Paul Geller, an individual, and Catherine Stocker from BCC High School Cluster. And Jane Lerman is the first speaker. Is Jane Lerman here? No? Melissa McKenna.
Good evening. My name is Melissa McKenna. The 6-year CIP is a funny creature. It's a really big, scary number all at once. However, it has immediate projects and long-range planning. When the money is tight, there's the magic to make the numbers work by shifting the money to the out years or years 3 through 6. This delays projects while still being able to say they are in the CIP. Truth is, only the first 2 years matter. Beyond that, there's no guarantee. Those of us involved in schools wait for the shovel to be in the ground. While I could say, yay, the Clarksburg Library is in the CIP, planning money isn't allocated until FY24, and construction money is in 26. So right now, this is just a very pretty promise. The library refresh program remains, but is vague. I had hoped that such a robust and successful program would continue in a more meaningful way. Speaking of libraries, I am grateful for increased funding to Montgomery College for library renovations and to complete the Catherine and Isaiah Leggett Math and Science Building in Tacoma Park. I specifically mentioned funding allocation timing within the CIP because of construction funding for one crucial reason: Crown High School. The clock is ticking louder than ever. This is a free high school site. It is the only high school site in the county. Did I mention it's free? It's 32 acres. When it was annexed, the Crown Village Farm Company understood the CIP process. Construction funding must be in the first 2 years of the CIP for them to consider MCPS going forward. Otherwise, it becomes a very large park for Gaithersburg, which will turn it over for free. Did I mention it's free? So it is imperative that Crown High School stay on schedule. Please fully fund the Board of Education's request. I know you were waiting for that. Besides, not everything that they need is included. I have repeatedly urged MCPS to submit a total needs list, but instead you get a reasonable request. School capacity promised in this CIP is 14,219 seats. Only if the CIP is fully funded all 6 years. Roughly 12,200 students sit in 488 portables at schools and holding facilities. Regardless of whether you think that MCPS's projected enrollment for 2026 is correct, it would still leave a deficit of 3,861 seats. We need to do things differently. Reduce project costs, spend once, not multiple times. I'm talking about planning money. Refresh, not rebuild, and build better. With the blessing of the NAC, they request for the CIP money for Cresthaven and Moscow Nix to be removed from this budget. Please also make sure you have a holding scroll
Melissa.
first.
We will read the rest.
Thank you.
Thank you. David Scull, please. Okay.
President Katz and members, I'm Dave Scull, the oldest living mountain biker and a trail volunteer in county parks. 4 years ago or so, this council pioneered a new recreational concept. You sent a unanimous resolution to the Maryland Public Service Commission and said, don't let Pepco and Exelon merge unless they agree to let us put trails on your power lines. And they didn't know what to think. This doesn't happen in merger cases involving utilities. Well, a year ago, Councilman Rice cut the ribbon on the fruits of your labor, which a section of the trail that starts in District 2 and ends in District 1. That is from the Soccerplex down to Cabin John. Only half of that unpaved trail is in existence yet. Trails are certainly the least expensive item in the capital budget, mostly done by volunteers and some help from the government. Paved trails are more popular because more people can use them, and they're more expensive. But wait, this isn't just any paved trail. The land is free. Pepco's not charging a dime. Nobody has to condemn anything. And they've already done the engineering. They wanted to make sure the paved trail didn't interfere with what they do. But best of all, they agreed to try to work the cost of the paved trail into the rate base that all ratepayers would help pay for, on the theory that they could argue it improves access to their facilities, which it would. And so we think that the cuts to the capital budget have too big an impact on these very inexpensive, very popular programs, and we urge restoration. Thank you.
Thank you. I understand Jane Lerman is here. Please, you're the next speaker.
President Katz, distinguished council members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jane Lerman, and I'm the Poolsville Cluster Coordinator and the chair of the MCCPTA CIP Committee. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I respectfully request that the County Council restore all funds to the superintendent's recommended CIP so that MCPS receives the funds that our schools so desperately need. As you know, Poolsville High School is one of the 9 capital projects in the 2021-26 CIP. Our Eisenhower-era facility has needed upgrades for many years, and the community eagerly anticipates a 21st century building. I urge you to restore all requested funding because inadequate facilities negatively impact students and communities writ large. I have several perspectives regarding the current budget cuts, both as a PTA member and as an employee of MCPS. I've been a substitute teacher for 11 years and have worked in approximately 30 schools in the upper half of the county. I have witnessed the impacts of cramped classrooms, spotty Wi-Fi, outdated auditoriums, and antiquated workspaces for teachers. Cutting millions of dollars in the budget while the economy is doing pretty well does not serve the short or long-term interests of our students and MCPS staff. The current cuts impact more than academic activities. Schools are the beating hearts of their communities, and the buildings are the epicenter of learning and social engagement. Outdated buildings can limit holistic programming within schools that help students and their families. These include, but are not limited to, the proposed community school at South Lake Elementary, as well as language centers, linkages for learning, Judy centers, after-school programs, immigrant language centers, and multi-generational service centers. These programs address urgent needs that cannot be assigned to other areas in the public sector. But there are other needs that are a direct result of our divided country and nasty political culture. The growing animosity that we see at its core are expressions of fear. Fear of people different from ourselves, anxiety about technology, and fear that our children will live in a world that lacks promise and opportunity. Schools are the most important spaces where children feel supported and safe. Accordingly, the county CIP must fully fund the superintendent's CIP for major capital projects and planned life cycle asset replacements. The impact of schools reach far beyond the spaces that they occupy, and in these uncertain times, they are places where our children and families can heal. Please consider these comments, and again, thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Allison Gillespie.
Thank you. I'm here to ask you restore full funding to Montgomery County Parks and not cut anything from the budget request from MNCPPC. I spend a lot of time in Montgomery County Parks. My favorite thing to do is hike in the woods. Some people pay expensive gym memberships. I prefer to drive to trailheads after work and walk off my stress in places like Rock Creek, Meadowside, Northwest Branch, and Little Bennett. For 9 years, I've also monitored a bluebird trail at Wheaton Regional Park, successfully fledging hundreds of young birds. This fall, as the president of the Forest Estates Community Association, I was extremely proud to work with the Parks Department to host a really great event in honor of Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. Our local park was full of fun educational displays and live mariachi music, and we welcomed people from all around the county to join the fun and learn about this extremely interesting part of Mexican heritage. Over the last 15 years, I led 2 park refurbishment committees that have resulted in improved playgrounds in my neighborhood, and I was part of cleanup days and many tree planting efforts too. It makes me extremely happy to see kids in Forest Glen play on equipment that I helped pick from a catalog a decade ago and hear their parents say they love our park. I really love to see neighbors from the nearby apartments close to my house come out and have huge birthday parties and cookouts to celebrate holidays there too, because our park is their backyard. Recently, a friend who lives in New York City said he was envious of how easy it was for me to get out and enjoy nature so close to home, even though I live in an urban area. In every Facebook picture, he wrote, "You are surrounded by green space and trees. You must live in a really cool place." I do live in a really cool place, I agree. Parks make it cool. Parks make Montgomery County a really cool place. Parks greatly enhance my quality of life and the quality of life for my entire community. The most amazing thing about those parks is that they are safe and clean and well-maintained. They are loved and they are respected. I am worried about our ability to keep them that way if we cut the budget. Parks touch and enhance the lives of all county residents in a way that few other things are able to do. Thousands of times a day, someone goes for a walk or enjoys a bike ride or plays soccer with their kids in this county. Those moments are so integral to our quality of life here, we almost forget them, almost take them for granted, but they are very meaningful. They are free and available to anyone near a park, which is actually a large majority of those who live in this county. If we keep the budget, it will mean new parks for a few more people, by the way. In 2015, local park and recreation agencies invested in an estimated $23 billion on capital programs in the United States. That capital spending led to an additional $64 billion in economic activity, which is a contribution of $32 billion to our national GDP. To quote those who wrote the report, investments made to local and regional parks not only raise the standard of living in our neighborhoods, towns, and cities, but they also spark activity that can ripple throughout the economy. Please keep the parks in the budget. Keep the money that'll pay for Brookside Gardens. You'll see the list on my thing. I got a long list of what you should keep.
Thank you,
so.
but we will read the rest. Thank you very much. Paul Geller.
Good evening, council members. We have a pending issue that we really need to address, and I really need your help on this. Not that you wouldn't do it anyway, but I just wanted to emphasize the importance of this. We've been talking, thanks to Councilmember Rice and many others, about the Kirwan Commission recommendations. And quite frankly, as someone who volunteered in a nursery school that my kids attended for 7 years, I know the value of having 4-year-olds come into a full-day pre-K program, or half-day pre-K program. We're going to have a lot of space for these kids to sit in, and I'm very concerned about it. Melissa talks about it all the time, but I want to piggyback on that. It's very important that we have funding for this. And Melissa and I have been working for many years behind the scenes and a little bit in front of the scenes, trying to get MCPS to change the way they do construction projects in this county. Make no mistake about it, it is a hot mess how they do it now. It's sad to say that, but after years of saying it behind closed doors, I will say it out loud. We need to do something different. Right now, they will not, almost without exception, ever consider doing renovation projects or refresh projects. Now, the libraries have done it quite successfully. Why can't our schools? I've talked to many outside contractors who are yearning to get into our system and just bid on the projects. They've been prevented from doing so. Now, something needs to be done. And since you really do control the purse strings, I would ask you, as forcefully as I could, when you talk to the folks at MCPS, to please tell them the importance of opening up this contracting to all outside bidders. It's imperative. When I hear the folks at Neilsville Middle School, I'm reminded of the educational forum that you had up there just last year. And that wasn't the first time I had been up there, but it was the first time I had been up there with a large number of adults all cramming into that little cafeteria. But there's many places all throughout the county that are like this. I mean, we always see the county as 25 clusters, and you go to any cluster and they have their unique needs. However, when we keep tearing down buildings and not refreshing them and building brand new ones, we have no financial wherewithal to do this. And with the kids, hopefully 12,000 potential 4-year-olds coming into the system, where are we going to put them unless we do something radically different? So I urge you, if there is a way possible to not only have MCPS rethink the way that they do their projects, but also to come to Annapolis en masse and advocate alongside other counties with similar needs, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Catherine Stocker.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify at the CIP hearing. My name is Kathy Stocker, and I'm one of the MCC PTA cluster coordinators for the BCC cluster. I welcome the opportunity to represent the families of the approximately 7,600 kids currently enrolled over our 10 schools in the Bethesda and Chevy Chase areas. I would like to thank the County Executive Council members and staff for your hard work on the proposed budget and your careful attention to the capital improvement plan for our schools. We understand that you grapple with many critical funding priorities, but I still come to you to ask you to fully fund the superintendent's proposed CIP. As those of us with teenagers know, rapid growth brings with it some growing pains. We are growing, and we are feeling some pain. Of particular concern to us is Bethesda Elementary. BE continues to be dramatically impacted by growth in downtown Bethesda, and we urge the approval and full funding of the proposed CIP so that a much-needed addition at BE can be completed by the first day of school 2023. The BE faculty has had to get really creative to make the school day work, but they are running out of options. Lunch is held in classrooms for some sections due to lack of space to accommodate everyone in the school cafeteria. This constraint puts additional strain on staffing resources, and it requires split coverage for lunch and additional building service time for cleanup. The common spaces within the school are overworked, overstretched. They're just simply way over capacity. During recess, only one grade can use the playground area at a time. Because technology resources are allocated for the number of students and not the number of oversubscribed sections, there's actually not enough space to even store the computers. Certain educational programming at the school has to be doubled up. ESOL, special ed, and instrumental instruction are all forced to use the same space. It is very difficult to find space needed for specials and service providers. For example, when a school psychologist visits, there's nowhere to put him or her so that they can do their job. While additional relocatable classrooms can help ease some of this crowding a bit in the short term, the proposed classroom addition is still urgently needed. Even with this proposed addition at BE, we will still have a need for additional elementary school capacity in the cluster. MCPS has proposed planning for a joint elementary school for the BCC and WJ clusters. As we struggle with our own capacity issues, we know that our friends at WJ are struggling with their capacity issues. We believe, along with our friends in WJ, that there's a good possibility that future growth in the WJ cluster alone will support a new elementary school there, in addition to a new school in our cluster. Given the growth, the proposed joint elementary school is already a compromise solution. If the council does not commit to funding for a new joint elementary school servicing the two clusters, we anticipated unprecedented and critical space shortages. Thank you so much for your service to our families.
Thank you. Councilmember Giwando.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you all for your testimony. I have a rule: if 3 people say something I want to respond to, I'll click in, so I'm going to do that. Ms. Gillespie, this is a really cool place, and I agree. Thank you for your advocacy. Ms. McKenna, I'm glad you brought up libraries. As lead for libraries, I'm very concerned about the timeline on Clarksburg and the refresh program. I think some of my colleagues share that concern, so I want to thank you for that point among your other points. And last but not least, the oldest mountain biker, former council member David Scull. I just want to thank you. You are an inspiration, sir, to many of us, not only for your athletic prowess, but for your continued advocacy on behalf of Montgomery County. So I just wanted to acknowledge you and thank you for your support and concern about our county.
Thank you. There are no further questions for this panel. This concludes this panel. Next, I understand Christopher Arndt is here as an individual. Mary Flynn, an individual. Rochelle Fink from Whitman High School Cluster. Michael Owens, individual. Rodney Peel from the Richard Montgomery High School cluster, Sean Punga from an individual, and Collins Odongo from Paint Branch High School cluster. Excuse me? Individual, that's fine. You can correct that when you're giving your information. Christopher Arndt, please.
Good evening, council members. I am Christopher Arndt of Boyd's, Maryland. As someone who commutes by bicycle and as someone who has lived in Chevy Chase for 20 years, I would like to convey my strong support for the funding of the tunnel under Wisconsin Avenue for the Capitol Crescent Trail. This tunnel is vitally needed for the safety of both pedestrians and cyclists, and it is critical to the county's commitment to Vision Zero. Further, it is needed to complete an essential transportation corridor in a very congested area. Make no mistake about it, the Capitol Crescent Trail is a vital transportation route used by both cyclists and pedestrians in getting to their work destinations in Bethesda and beyond. The alternative of an at-grade crossing on Wisconsin Avenue is not only dangerous, it would be a major deterrent to those choosing to commute without a car. Not building this tunnel betrays the county's long-held commitment to clean air and to the goal of having a more walkable community in Bethesda. Finally, it fulfills the promise the county made to the cycling community when the Purple Line was proposed. That promise was that the Capitol Crescent Trail would remain, including a tunnel under Wisconsin Avenue. In return, the county gained the support for the Purple Line from a significant constituency. We cannot go backwards. We cannot imperil pedestrian and cyclist safety. We cannot create an impediment to a vital commuting route. We cannot go back on our commitments. So I urge you to approve funding for the tunnel. Thank you for consideration, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. Mary Flynn.
Council President Katz and honorable members of the County Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Mary Flynn, and I am here tonight to support the Parks Department. Before I begin, I want to recognize how hard you all work, and I appreciate you taking public testimony on nights like tonight. Being a public servant is rewarding, but demands a lot of your personal time. It's also really hard to reconcile conflicting priorities, such as how much money to allocate to various capital improvements. I was particularly moved by Sonya's characterization of what's happening in Neillsville. But this brings me to my request. I am sensitive to the county's projected revenue shortfalls and budget constraints. When evaluating all the competing interests, I simply urge you to consider fully funding public spaces for the benefit of residents, businesses, and visitors. I was an active participant in the Energized Public Spaces Working Group. I testified in January 2018 that as the county encourages infill development in our dense urban areas, we need to assure that our new residential and commercial areas are attractive, livable, and sustainable. As I have also testified for the Bethesda Downtown Plan, as new buildings reach for the sky, we must foster a strong sense of place for people on the ground. In my own neighborhood, for example, I cannot tell you how much I miss the tree-canopied Capitol Crescent Trail. With years of constant construction noise, closed sidewalks, and traffic detours, our growing population needs more quiet places to walk and more opportunities for children and adults to enjoy outdoor athletic and social activities. For these reasons, I encourage you to carefully review the Park Department's proposed projects and commit to building strong communities through public spaces throughout the county. I also want to add one little bit, which is it was very difficult to find out how to reconcile the proposed budget from the Parks Department with what was being recommended by the executive. And I think there is a role that the County Council can play. I have a variety of printouts here that show all of the resolutions. And in none of these resolutions does it actually say what the 6-year projected numbers are. And that is what both the Parks Department and the executive were using. And they came up with different numbers because they were looking at different resolutions. So I would try to encourage everyone to get on the same page. It was really difficult to figure out what I was really looking at when I saw the two different opposing points of view. So with that, I thank you for your time and your service.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your suggestion. That's a good one. Rochelle Fink.
On behalf of the schools of the Walt Whitman High School cluster schools and my fellow cluster coordinators, Lisa London and Sherry Altman, we would like to thank you for allowing us to testify tonight. As an initial matter, we want to express our gratitude for the funding that has supported the nearly completed Pyle Middle School expansion project and the much-needed Walt Whitman High School expansion. Our community has been growing rapidly for the past several decades, and we appreciate your past support and your current support for the capital funding needed to support our students. We are here to urge the council to continue its tradition of supporting the superintendent's budget. The school system's capital needs are well documented and not new. We recognize, too, that the budget pressures are not new. There may not be easy solutions to address the growth of the MCPS student population, but the reality is that new students keep coming. We've all heard the refrain for many years that MCPS grows by the population of one high school every year, and that trend does not seem to be ending. The new students require teachers, administrators, staff, and seats. Failing to fully fund the superintendent's budget will surely exacerbate today's problems of crowded classrooms and declining school infrastructure, and weaken our county's best asset. We thus urge the council to fund Superintendent Smith's proposed capital budget in full. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Owens.
Good evening, Council. My name is Mike Owens. I live in Boyd's, and my children go to Clarksburg Elementary School. I'm here to request that you fully fund the MCPS Capital Improvement Plan. Due to aggressive development on Maryland 355 and at Cabin Branch, there are currently 639 students enrolled in a school built for only 311. Our principal's best guess for fall 2020 enrollment is 700 students, or 225% capacity. Every day, students and school staff deal heroically with the stress and inefficiencies caused by overcrowding, but they shouldn't have to. Clarksburg Elementary was not designed for 700 children to arrive at the same time. Buses and cars gridlock on the narrow two-lane dead-end road leading to the school. Commuter volume and traffic lights on Maryland 355 aggravate the gridlock. The attendance secretary frequently asks teachers to delay taking attendance because of late buses. Teachers 20 minutes into their lessons must start the lesson over again or leave children behind. On arrival, half of the school walks outside to crowded portables. To use the restroom, my son badges into the building, waits in a line for one of 5 stalls shared by 17 classrooms. When students misplace access badges, teachers must stop instruction to address this basic need. 225% utilization means kids wait in a 20-minute cafeteria line, have 10 minutes to eat, and throw uneaten food in the trash. Since lunch times range from 11 o'clock till 2:30, hunger directly impacts behavior and academic performance. On half days, kindergartners get off the bus and go to lunch. My son's 4th grade compacted math class has 36 students. These kids learn geometry elbow to elbow at every table, including the teacher's table. School staff develop creative workarounds to regain ground, but I keep imagining what these rock star teachers could do at a properly utilized MCPS school. At school events, the problems continue. There are 59 staff members and only 75 parking spaces. Since safe, legal parking spaces fill immediately, I park a quarter mile away on the road, cross Maryland 355 without a signal, and wish for sidewalks while carrying my preschooler and dodging traffic that's oncoming. At night, I carry a flashlight so I can return to my car and distracted drivers will see me. Parking is so bad that parents stop participating in events. If funded, Clarksburg Elementary number 9 will bring critical relief 2.5 years from now after thousands more houses are built. The county waived a service area development moratorium due to an approved CIP project, yet when the county delayed our offload, it still allowed the construction to continue. I moved to Montgomery County for an engineering job. I started a family here based on the reputation of the public schools. Even with fantastic local administration and teachers, years of overcrowding compound lost time and missed opportunities, and it will get worse. The council needs to act. I am counting on you to fund the CIP.
Thank you very much. Next is Rodney Peel.
Good evening, members of the County Council. I'm Rodney Peel. I'm one of the cluster coordinators for the Richard Montgomery Cluster. First, as I understand it, you agreed last November with the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments to increase regional housing targets, to add 10,000 more housing units in the county by 2030, 10,000 more than what is already planned, including 1,000 more in Rockville. So obviously these housing units will bring families with children who go to our schools. So what's in the CIP now is not going to be enough. We need more projects in the pipeline, and we need the improved projects to be completed on time or even early. So we need more funding, not less, from the County Council. At Richard Montgomery High School is already more than 250 students over capacity, and the numbers keep going up. By the time my daughter's a senior, the school will have nearly 600 students too many. Most of those schools with that many students over capacity already have additions in the works. The CIP includes a major project or an addition for 7 other high schools. But for our cluster, 2 new high schools, Crown and Woodward, are proposed to be the solution. But that doesn't solve our overcapacity problem for the next 7+ years that we know it will take to get it built and populated. So please fund the superintendent's request so we can get those projects moving and those schools built. As I understand it, the County Council, you also agreed that 75% of the new homes should be affordable for low and middle income families. Something that we've been asking our Board of Education to do, and we'd like your help to prioritize it. We feel like it's urgent that we do more countywide to improve our facilities that serve a disproportionate number of socioeconomically disadvantaged students. In our cluster, for example, that means prioritizing capital funds for Twin Brook Elementary School, just as we do for operating funds. Twin Brook's a Title I school, and we feel like it should be prioritized in the CIP because a better school facility improves student health and achievement, staff satisfaction and retention, property values, and education equity, so that we can improve education, health, safety, community, and economic outcomes through building new schools or improving schools in areas of most need. We also, as I understand it, the Council of Governments also wants 75% of the growth to be in activity centers or near high-capacity transit. Again, the city of Rockville meets that condition and would attract even more growth, even though we teeter at the edge of moratorium. So we ask MCPS, the county, and the city of Rockville to consult with each other and coordinate when evaluating density, capacity, and projects, and when forecasting growth in our cluster. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Sean Pongo? Sean Pongo? No. Collins Odongo? You need to touch the, there you go.
I thought there was Sean Pongo, but anyway, let me delve straight into the reason why I'm here is I did mention that I'm here on the capacity as an individual because my title has changed. I'm a candidate at large for the board, so I was told, cautioned that I can't advocate for the cluster, though I'm a cluster coordinator. So I'll narrow, because I'm a parent of 3 children in 3 schools, I'll narrow on that as part of my advocacy, because I can advocate on any platform. I'm a parent of Paint Branch High School, I'm a parent of Beneka, and I'm a parent of Greencastle. And despite all that, I'm also a professor at the university, so I'm here on the scholarly perspective. Education forms the foundation of any society. And I think education cannot wait. And that is why I'm motivated to appear before the council. And with due respect, the president and the council member at large, protocol observed. I want to appreciate that some of the budget at the first level, it looks very rousy and good. But the details, the devil is in the details. We've seen testimonies come here and go. Issues of security, issue of sanitary pads. Those are things that border on human rights. And I think until we address and prioritize our budgeting, until we prioritize our execution, my main clarion call to the elected leaders, visit these schools. Our children are suffering. The spaces are very limited. The staffing is very limited. The infrastructural arrangement is very limited. And I think this calls for an urgency. And this is a message that I want to be taken to the executive. Let them listen to the voice of reason. The Board of Education is a component of professionals. And I think budget is a negotiated process. That funding needs to be funded fully because education is an integrated process. It's not like any other system because it's like a conveyor belt. You don't give staffing, there'll be half-baked implementation of the curriculum. So with due respect, I want to challenge the board. Do anything, cut-ready budget by education should be left alone, fully, because it's going to form the foundation of our society. So that is what has motivated me to come. And hopefully, if you guys don't do it, we'll be indicting you. And I think this message needs to go to the executive. If our children are going to suffer, some of us are going to, we don't want to be, because education is for civil people. So I want to request that if they can do that, we would really appreciate so that we don't have to go to the streets to advocate for the obvious. The students have talked, everybody has talked, but as a parent who has also been an advocate for 4 years, these things need to be done like yesterday. So if you can fund that budget, I think it will be a good position for you people because it will form part of your campaign strategy for next time. Otherwise, we'll be knocking some of you out. And I'm not saying this with arrogance, but with the humility.
Thank you
Others,
very
thank
much.
you so
We'll
much.
read the rest of your testimony. Thank you. There's no questions for this panel, so that concludes this panel. The next panel is Josh Tolkien, Kathy Kircher. Josh Tolkien's an individual. Kathy Kircher from the Friends of Brookside Gardens. Elsie O'Connell, an individual. Corrine Hart, an individual. And Ian Latinsky, a Montgomery College alumna. Josh Tolkien? Is Josh Tolkien here? No. Kathy Kircher? Please, if you would, yeah, there we go. Still got to do it. There we go.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Kathy Kircher, a longtime resident of Montgomery County. I didn't realize quite how long it was since I started listening to the requests for schools. And I remember when my kid was going to kindergarten being here arguing for Rock Creek Forest Elementary. And he's now got his own business and he's 40 years old. I'm here representing Friends of Gardens and its 1,000 members. As FOBG, we invest our time and talents and raise funds for special programs and advocate for Brookside Gardens. Many of us volunteer to work with the staff gardeners, help with educational programs and events, and also help with day-to-day operations. Tonight, I'm here to ask you for two things. First, to fully fund the park's CIP, and then especially to fully fund Brookside Gardens CIP. Actually, I'm going to get a little gutsy and ask you to increase funding for parks in Brookside. Even though I'm a realist, I'm also a bit of an optimist. Sure, funding's always short. The county population is growing and becoming denser, and the environment is in crisis. But that's why we need parks. Parks provide contact with nature to keep us human and space to bring us together as community. And we certainly need to keep coming together as community. We need more parks, and we need to care for the parks we have. The more time I spend at Brookside, the more I've come to love it. I appreciate little things like watching the gardens change through the seasons, and I appreciate the big community events like Children's Day and the Garden of Lights. We're so lucky to have Brookside. It's truly one of a kind, and it's a gem. Every year, more and more people are visiting Brookside, and it's starting to show, or has been showing, its wear and tear. It just celebrated its 50th anniversary, and parts of it look 50 years or more old. The 3 projects in the CIP for Brookside replace or update portions of the garden from when it first opened 50 years ago. A new conservatory, renovations for the core formal gardens to make them ADA compliant, and renewal of the rose garden to update failing infrastructure. These are the oldest parts of the garden. They're heavily used. They have access problems. They're still aging, and they are the least energy efficient parts of the garden. The conservatory is 50 years old and shows its age, and it's in the 100-year floodplain. The glass roof leaks and is broken in places, and the physical plant is old and inefficient. With volunteers, we can help with the plantings and we can give tours, but we can't climb up on the roof and patch the holes. The county really needs to start with planning its replacement. We all need Brookside.
Thank you very much. We'll read the rest of your testimony. Elsie O'Connell.
Thank you. It's Elise, but thank you for allowing me to speak today. Dale Drive in Silver Spring, it turns out, is a very busy street that drivers use as a back road to avoid 495 during rush hour and to connect Colesville and Georgia. It is hilly and bendy, and drivers go very fast. As with any hill, as one approaches the peak, you can't see a pedestrian on the other side of the peak until you are at the other side of the hill, making it hazardous to those walking in the road. Recent traffic calming measures made cars slightly more likely to stop at crosswalks. But these are crosswalks that lead to nothing but the shoulder of the road. A few bump outs and pedestrian islands have not solved the issue that there is simply no place safe to walk along Dale Drive. I moved to our house on Dale Drive in June of 2017, and since that time, just in front of my own house, I've witnessed with my own eyes 3 accidents where cars were damaged enough to warrant tow trucks. And I work full-time. I'm a physician. I'm gone most of the day. So these are only accidents that I've seen with my own eyes and in optimal conditions, and I don't know the total count of all that have happened when I'm not there, but I've heard it's a lot. The corner of Crosby and Dale, which is mere steps away from these accidents, is a school bus stop for elementary school children. It is frightening to think what could happen as these children walk in the street to and from the bus stop. A major car accident does not need to happen. A car simply needs to swerve onto the shoulder of the road, and a child will be struck. So this is an entirely preventable situation with a sidewalk with a curb. Out of necessity, I see families who walk to and from local synagogue, often after dark, in the street with their children of all ages, and pedestrians that go along Dale to get from bus stops on Georgia to Colesville. Less than a quarter of a mile from my house is Sligo Creek Trail and several small businesses, and one risks their life to walk to these destinations, and so often does not go. My concerns are not in isolation. A recent MCDOT survey of over 80 of people in the area showed that 80% of the residents on or near Dale were in support of a sidewalk or path. I compiled a short list of 30 people's individual bullet points of comments for your reading at your leisure. So in closing, if you could please support the use of the construction of a multi-use path. I'll just use my last few seconds for part of a testimony of a companion who's supposed to go later whose child got sick tonight. And her sentiments are basically that her and her husband walk along the street to go to Forest Glen Metro stop every morning and frequently have to jump out of the way of cars and buses driving dangerously on Dale and the surrounding streets. And they've both nearly been hit trying to bring in their trash cans to the road. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much. Corrine Hart.
Hi.
Please.
Hi, thank you, Council President Katz and council members. I'm Corinne Hart. I live on Dale Drive, and I'm here to urge you today to include funding for a sidewalk on Dale Drive between Colesville Road and Georgia Avenue. As many of you know, my community has been advocating for pedestrian safety improvements on this part of Dale for many years. While we're grateful for the traffic calming infrastructure that was recently installed, it was meant to be only one part of a more robust solution. In fact, without a sidewalk, the bump out curbs actually force bikes, people in wheelchairs, and people pushing strollers to walk directly into traffic to get around them. Even with the traffic calming, there were several crashes just last month. I'm not here only to advocate that you include funding to finish this project, but to share my experience of how challenging it is to get basic pedestrian infrastructure installed on a county road. I started my advocacy when I was on maternity leave. My daughter's now 2.5 years old, and I'm on my maternity leave with my second child. Navigating the road on foot with 2 kids is even more horrifying than with 1. In 1994, retired NASA engineer Mr. Leonard Hardis was hit and killed by a driver as he walked along Dale Drive a few blocks from his home. For over 25 years, residents have been asking the county to solve this issue that puts their lives at risk. In 2008, Funding was included in the CIP to fund a sidewalk, and it was removed in 2016 without any consultation with our community. Since then, my neighbors and I have been actively organizing, as you know, to increase safety on this road, particularly thinking about the elementary and middle-aged school kids who wait every morning on this busy road without a sidewalk. For example, we formed the Dale Drive Safety Coalition, which has 200 members. We've testified here at the council, at the planning board, and attended meeting after meeting. We've organized the Dale Drive Safety Walk, which was attended by over 100 people, including many of you and other county officials. We've spoken with the county executive, the heads of MC-DOT, the heads of the planning department, many of you, your staff, and the police department. And several local news outlets have covered our advocacy, including ABC 7 News just the other night. And yet, the Dale Drive path is not included in the CIP and has no funding beyond 35% design. This section of Dale is completely residential. It has no sidewalks, no bike lane. You are forced to walk in the shoulder, which is completely impassable in some places due to parked cars. I did it just this morning with a double stroller. In a recent MC-DOT survey, as Elise said, over 80% of residents want to see a sidewalk. Many people also responded, saying they use Dale to walk or bike to the churches, parks, and local businesses. It will also be an access route to the Purple Line, and it is included in the county's bicycle master plan. I urge you to restore funding in the budget to complete the Dale Drive project and address our concerns. The county needs to take action before someone else gets killed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ian Latinsky.
Good evening. My name is Ian Latinsky. I'm a lifelong resident of Montgomery County and a Montgomery College alumnus. Today, I'm the Chief Technology Officer at LearnZillion, a local startup that just so happens to provide the new middle school math curriculum for MCPS. I'm here to ask that you please fully fund the Montgomery College capital budget request, particularly for library renovations, deferred maintenance, and the Leggett Math and Science Building at Tacoma Park, Silver Spring. I opted to stay local while pursuing my degree, knowing that MC and the University of Maryland College Park would provide me with a great education without leaving the community I loved. Since graduating from UND in computer science, I have built software applications for local companies with national impact in defense, philanthropic fundraising, and now education. Having been around the technical and corporate blocks, I know that MC gave me a great education and helped prepare me for a strong career. I recommend the college to all high school seniors. Another local, Harrison, a friend and former classmate, first experienced and had access to computers while at MC. Today, he runs a local IT firm out of Silver Spring called H&B Tech, serving businesses in this county and the broader DC metro area. He and his wife employ other county residents as IT professionals. And access to STEM facilities and equipment at the college impact a resident's trajectory for life, like Harrison's, as well as other residents' lives through them and the broader community and the broader county for years to come. So please continue to support the Leggett Math and Science Building so all MC students have access to a high-quality STEM building. As a former commuter student throughout college, I can also vouch for the importance of quiet and productive locations away from the busyness and noise of home. I had 4 siblings, so you can imagine how loud that was. In addition to a helpful study environment, the college library provides access to the technology, tools, and people to help you study. I spent most of my time outside class in the library, working on homework, projects, and in study groups. Please support the college's library renovation so that each student has a study haven. In addition to supporting these projects, please provide funds so that MC can take on the challenge of deferred maintenance on many of its facilities. Taking care of issues now to save public dollars later. I'm grateful to have grown up in a county that cares a lot about education and provided me, my siblings, and my friends with educations that prepared us for our careers. That's one of the reasons I've chosen to stay in Montgomery County and one of the reasons I'm raising my family here now. All 3 of our kids, 9 and younger, already know they're attending MC. Thank you for supporting MC's capital budget. I'm grateful, as are many others who have attended, are attending, or soon will be because I'm nudging them there. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your consideration.
Thank you very much. There's no questions of this panel, so this panel is concluded. The final panel for this evening is Sarah Haj Hamad, a Montgomery College student, Eni Okusanya, an individual, and Addie Solomon, an individual. Sarah, are you Sarah? Please begin.
Good evening, President Katz and esteemed members of the County Council. My name is Sarah Haj Hamad, and I'm a Montgomery College student on the Tacoma Park Silver Spring campus. I'm a student worker in the Student Life Office. I serve on the Student Senate, and I'm a student representative to the Board of Trustees. I am here to thank you for your continued support for our college and to ask you to fully fund MC's capital budget request. I'm honored to represent my fellow students and advocate for funding that serves MC students. The library is an important part of a college student's life. It provides a safe space, a home away from home for students to study. Many students don't have access to computers or Wi-Fi at home, so they come to the library to do their homework because it has what they need to succeed. Like most students, I work and go to school, so I spend countless hours in the library between work and class so I can study, write, and conduct research. Many students like myself cannot afford to buy required textbooks, so we use the library's copy of textbooks. That's honestly how I passed my Political Science 101 with an A. Libraries are critical for students. That's why we need funding to renovate these spaces. Bad lighting, uncomfortable furniture, plugs that don't work, not enough study rooms, all of these factors alienate the students who we need to serve the most. We serve an incredibly diverse group of students at MC. We must make sure that we're providing them the spaces that they need, that extends to a fully functional library. Hence, I humbly ask you to continue the funding of the renovation of MC's libraries so they can continue to be a safe haven for all MC students. Furthermore, please continue to support the construction of the Leggett Math and Science Building. This building has become a great source of pride for our campus because the conditions in the old facility were disappointing, to say the least. We all look forward to a building where the heating actually works, there aren't any leaks, and outdated equipment isn't held together by duct tape. A modern math and science building will give students a building that they need and deserve. And please support the college's request for deferred maintenance projects. It is clear that buildings need ongoing attention so that MC remains a place where students like myself and students of the future can continue to take classes, meet professors, get counseling, eat meals, and more. As a student leader, I feel an intense sense of pride in my college and what it has to offer. Hence, I'm determined that students receive what they need to succeed. I remember when I first came to the United States 4 years ago. College honestly seemed a world away. However, MC became my saving grace. It was affordable enough for me to be able to attend classes. I'm getting a quality education, and I'm proud to ask you tonight to please fully fund MC's capital budget request. Help us by providing funds for the library renovations. Thank you.
Thank you. Eni Akasanya? Was it close? Okay, all right.
That's great. To the council board members, my name is Eni Okosanya. I am here today to advocate for the following schools under the Capital Improvement Plan. On behalf of my family and my community, I ask that the council honor the request to specifically fund Clarksburg Elementary Cluster Number 9 and stay on schedule for the building of the new Neillsville Middle School as per request of our superintendent. As a constituent and a mother of 3 children, I believe that Clarksburg Elementary Cluster Number 9 is long overdue for construction. When we bought our house in Cabin Branch during the fall of 2014, the builder mentioned to us that the new elementary school will open in fall of 2019. I thought, okay, that's doable. It's only 5 years. My second child will be able to go to school there. This was not the case. Now all I hear it's in the county's hand. I felt deceived, and I am sure that I am not the only one in my area who feels this way. Even though we love Clarksburg Elementary School, because of the collaboration and support among parents, guardians, staff, and students, we believe that our children should not be stepping over each other or letting first grade students eat lunch at 2:15 p.m. I commend the staff and students. They have worked tirelessly to accommodate the growing numbers of students from 267 to over 640 students. This is not conducive for learning. The school cannot have a program or event for all the kids at once. They have to work on a time slot in order to make it happen. The staff and principal at Clarksburg Elementary are so creative to accommodate our students. I remember in 2018-2019 school year, when the music teacher had to relocate to the cafeteria multipurpose room for a music class due to lack of class space. This was not an excellent climate for our children to adjust while they are learning. In addition, the parking is a nightmare at Clarksburg Elementary, and I'm just going to leave it that way because Mike has talked about that. How about a solution and not a delay for this overcapacity, where taxpayers and our children deserve better? Let's focus on funding and building the new school, Clarksburg Elementary Cluster Number 9. Better yet, if you want to help our children attend a school closer to home, like other children in Clarksburg area, then fund our school. Recently, our subdivision and homes in our surroundings area were not heard by the Board of Education, and our children were reassigned to Neillsville Middle School in the name of diversity and decreasing farms rate. Rather than pushing them to another middle school in Germantown to overcapacity and farms rate, we understand that sometimes MCP had to do what they need to do to be able to accommodate everyone. Let's provide children at Neillsville Middle School the new school that they need and the infrastructure that they need so that they can be successful at school. Cabin Range is a melting pot, diversity.
Thank you very much. We will read the rest of your testimony. Thank you. We do have one other speaker who's not here, Addie Solomon, but though she is not here, we do have received her testimony, and we will read it. That concludes tonight's, and thank you, panel. There's no questions. This concludes tonight's public hearing. We do have another public hearing on the same topic tomorrow night, starting at 7 o'clock. Thank you for being with us this evening.